everybody, welcome back. It's Frank. How y'all doing? Hey, I'm calling today's video Tinfoil Hat Tuesday. Yeah, so not that it's anyway, I thought I'd share some things with you guys. You guys, I think in previous videos I said, this ain't my hair, that's my permanent tinfoil hat. Right, I just say that because it's kind of funny, right? So, you can have your own opinion about what's tinfoil hat, right? Some things, it's like everyone's like, oh, that's a tinfoil hat, right? And then like a couple years later, like, oh, hey, that guy was right. And then he's no longer the tinfoil hat guy, right? Like, so I'm always open. I'm always looking to see, different sides of things, right? You got a lot of like, hey, are you being controlled, manipulated, and you don't even know about it, right? So one of the things that, again, I wanted to share, because I've been kind of going down, you'll kind of call it the Great Awakening, if you will. Like, 2009 kind of was starting my journey from that perspective. Started looking into some things, some kind of crazy thing. You're like, what? And back then, there wasn't a lot of YouTube channels out there. It was kind of like Wild Wild West, so, you had to take a lot, at least at the time, I took a lot of things with a salt, bunch of salt in my eyes, right? I still do, right? But it's always good to sit. But one of the things that, during that process, I was always kind of that's kind of why I never fit in anywhere, even to this day, is that I was always curious, right? We're all curious at a certain point, right? And then that gets you, right? I start questioning things, right? It's like, well, why should I do that, right? For me, a lot of things are why, not how, right? Like, okay, how do I do this? Okay, all right, right? I'm just like, well, why would I do it that way, right? Like, okay, you tell me how to do it this way. All right, so tell me why. Oh, I don't know. We've just been doing that way for so long. And it's just like, all right, especially as an engineer, it's like, all right, is this the best utilization for our own time, effort, right, efficiency? Can I do something different in a different way that either shortens the time, or I get more, more research, more output with the same amount of input, right? Can I do a different process? But yeah, in that, there's, it's kind of like you go down, whatever you want to call it, the rabbit hole, whatever, right? But and maybe it's more how my thinking is, and how, because I'll think of one thing, and especially like based on either what I've read before or during my own personal experiences, because it's like, I call it tangents, right? So I got a topic, I'm start talking about it, and then I'm like, oh wait, I draw a connection from something that's over here, right? Yeah, I don't want to call it pattern recognition, but I'm like, oh, okay, this is tangent, right? And then I'll start talking about this item, right? And then, oh, that reminds me of this over here, and this over there, this over here, this, and I think the meme, there's a guy, he's like smoking, right? And it's like all these little, these lines, and they're all connecting and everything, and it's like, the guy, he's like the conspiratorial guy. I love, the first time I watched that movie, I'm like, oh my God, that's me! So the link that's in the description is actually to a YouTube channel, and it's actually, I don't know how I stumbled upon it again, but it's actually, well, there's a lot of things on this YouTube channel, but one of the things in particular that I have is what's called Bill Cooper. If you do a little research, or if you've ever heard of a guy named Alex Jones, he's bringing him up before, but but anyway, why I bring that up, it's always like, always question, right? And it's like, whenever someone says, why are you questioning things? It's like, especially when someone asks me that, I'm just like, I'm not like an asshole, and I'm like, I want to know more, right? Like, I don't want to just blindly, and I've never been that way, right? And maybe some people, like I said, I'm not trying to, like, you tell me something and I got to prove that, oh no, I'm not going to never do it, right? I'm not that type, no. Like, I'd rather know about it and be like, all right, let's question it, right? Like, okay, so is this really legit? And the reason why I say that is that a lot of times when you ask these questions and when someone's like, they get more defensive about something, there's probably something they're not telling you, right? Like there's, I don't want to call it a scam or a con or they're trying to control you, right? But in some way they are, right? Like, it's just like, wait, if you, right, if you're trying to be honest, it's like, then all right, if you have a, let's answer someone's question, right? Now again, there are just people out there to troll, right? They want to question everything, and it's like they already know, right? But you don't know they don't know, right? But anyway, I wanted to kind of have that there. Go ahead and do your investigation. If it's not your cup of tea, that's fine. But in this particular video link, right? Even they're saying, they're bringing information in, and they're like, hey, don't trust what I say, right? And I've always been that way, right? Don't trust anyone, right? Like sometimes we can't even trust ourselves, right? Like, right? Just because someone says this, it's like, all right, dude, were you there? Like, you can take something, right? And you can kind of go from, this little bit, right? Or you go that far, right? And anywhere in between, right? I call those type of like variables a slider bar, right? You know how like, I don't know if you guys, I might be kind of old, right? But like even like your volume control, like on Windows, right? It has almost like infinite, now some things have graduated, like a graduated cylinder, like, like a beaker with like, they call those graduations, right? Kind of weird, right? But, you can have like click, 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 right? Or you have like I call them the best slider bars, right? It's like, right? So every time I talk about a variable, right? That's why they call it either variable or more binary or like graduated, right? But like you can have two, right? Let's say this is a variable, right? And you got like yes, no, or at least on, off, right? You have some things that are just truly binary outcomes, right? Or you have something that's like, oh, it could be anywhere in between, right? And then you got other ones where it's just like, oh, no, you think it's a line? No, it's a spider web. It's like, but anyway. With that being said, right, it's kind of like, all right, never just take everything face value, right? Like, don't just like take it and be like an idiot. Not even, right? Now, again, it could be true, right? Like my belief is that there's a lot of truth and a lot of false. And like sometimes, like even I think like the Ninja or some of the other people even like the best lies are the ones that are like 98% true, right? Because it's like, oh, it's mostly, you don't know. It's like, oh, yeah, and there's that one little thing, right? That's like poison, right? You got like one little, right? Oh, the body can only take 1 part per billion, right? So if it's 99, percent, right, like eat a little bit, right, and you're dead, right? So, but some things can be, less than 98% true, and it's, that little segment has no impact, right? And you have others where it's like that one little bit could be right? And I remember taking those tests, right? And it was like one little thing, right? If one little thing wasn't right, the whole sentence, right? So like true and false, like when you said true, it was like, okay, you're like rereading it and you're like, okay, is there like a double negative in here? But I always believe, like, especially like stories, myths, legends, right? Even history nowadays, right? Like even, and I was thankfully, like I had a lot of history classes or a lot of knowledge that like today they don't even teach it anymore. It's like they just threw these books away. And it's like, oh yeah, that never existed, right? That's kind of the dangers of like, if we go fully digital, right? It's like, oh, it can just be erased and new information be put in there and you would never know, right? You, the idiot, reading it, right? I say idiot because I'd be right there, right? It'd be like, how would I know, right? And if you don't question this stuff, right? And again, like when someone says, why do you always got to be negative? Why you always got to be digging it? It's like, we need to be that way. Again, no matter, whether you like this guy or not, whether you, whatever, right? But even, like I said, I don't believe everything that guy says, right? I mean, I hope some of the good things that he says happens, right? But he could be lying about everything. I don't know, right? Like, we don't know till we get there, right? So why, right? We need to make informed decisions, right? Like that our founding fathers of this country wanted what they called I don't want to say educated citizenry, right? But it was up to the actual individuals to hold the government, accountable, right? Because the way our government is supposed to be is we don't get power from the government. No, no, no. We, the people, delegate power to the government, right? We get our rights and our power from, whatever you want to call it, right? That's why it's called imbued or endowed, right? Like we were born with this, right? And to make our life simpler, right? We're delegating a portion of what the government's going to do on our behalf. But we're supposed to have the power of like, hey, we don't want you guys to do this anymore. We can just yank it right away. And if the government doesn't like it, right? But again, right? Think for yourself, right? But like some people don't even. It's like, to me, that's like, it's like I call that like low level knowledge, right? But nowadays it's like revolutionary. It's like, what do you mean? It's right there in the Constitution. Like people don't even read the Constitution, and it's like all this stuff, right? But anyway, this video went everywhere, right? But that's the point, right? If you don't think for yourself, right? And I try to do this, this is how, like, you can kind of take this almost a little too far, and I have to catch myself. But it's one of those things, like, I'll start questioning me. I'm like, all right, I question this at this. It's like, all right, I need to question myself. Like, am I actually looking at it correctly, right? Because I can have my own bias, right? We all have our own personal biases, right? And that just means, like, I call them preferences, right? But, they got fancy terms for everything, But it's like, all right, am I actually approaching this right? Am I just questioning this to question it, right? Or I'm trying to get further information into this? So, yeah, I just wanted to lay that out there. So, yeah, this is, I'm going to have this recorded for New Year's Eve. So, it's Monday. You'll see this Tuesday. And I just want to put that out there because I was listening to this. Actually, I was walking and I'm like, hey, this particular video or this particular episode of this video, because there's like 40 of these videos. But yeah, you want to go down that rabbit hole, hey, please join me. Like I said, some of this stuff is, I don't want to say old news, but it's funny. You hear some of this stuff and it's like, oh yeah, that came to pass, right? But some of this stuff hasn't come to pass. But it's still out there, right? Like, what's the real truth, right? Like, the government won't tell you about this, and this damn society, this other secret society, it's like coulda, shoulda, woulda, right? Like, you don't. But again, I like entertaining those possibilities. And again, like, it's just like the pursuit of knowledge, right? And you're always asking that curious question, right? As humans, do we take it too far? Probably, right? Like, but in some cases, some people, like I said, in part, it's almost like some humanity, like a portion of our humanity, we take it too far, right? And then the other way, we don't take it far enough, right? Humans, what can we do? I don't know. We just live, or we try to live. Are we truly free? Yeah, I don't know. We're not. We won't know till we pass on. Is there anything after this life? I think so, but we won't know, right? We won't know, right? And then all the crap that everyone told you, right? Oh, if you don't do this, you're going to hell. And we'll get in there and be like, oh yeah, that was a lie, right? So anyway, I hope you guys have a good New Year's Eve, and we'll see you in 2025 into the future. See ya. Bye.